So we've kind of talked a lot about the off season. We did touch a little bit on the draft and free agency, and I've got plenty of notebooks for what we're about to talk about. So let's kind of shift gears to this summer and the Olympics, if that's okay with you, unless you needed to get anything else out from last season. Are you good?
Oh,
I
I'm
know
sure
you
it'll
wanted to
leak
get.
out. I'm sure it'll leak out. We got once we see basketball in motion, every idea I'm holding in right now is just gonna hemorrhage out. Don't you worry. We got plenty of
That's
time,
okay.
my friend.
So it's USA basketball. The Olympics, they start the 28th. We're recording on the 25th, so that is on this coming Sunday. They play Nikola Jokic in Serbia on NBC at 10:15 Central Time. So if you're into that, make sure you check that out. So they've already had 5 kind of warm-up games going into the Olympics. Um, but first, let's kind of, at least for anybody that doesn't know, we can break down the roster. Uh, we've got obviously LeBron, who will be the USA flag holder. Um, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Joel Embiid, Devin Booker, Jason Tatum, Anthony Davis, Tyrese Halliburton, Anthony Edwards, Drew Holiday, Bam Adebayo, and Derek White is the roster. So there are 12 teams in the Olympic tournament. There are 3 groups of 4, and it's kind of seeded from there, where the top the top 8 advance to kind of a knockout round. I've been able to watch the last 2 games, and it's been pretty fun and exciting. I know, Bobby, you've watched some of the highlights. I'll let you kind of at least kind of throw some of your thoughts and insights so far before I start dumping everything that I've got. What are your takes going into the 2024 Paris Olympics?
Yeah, I think it was smart of them to play the 5 exhibition games in the age of load management. You would think the opposite to be true, but no, I think that was a necessary evil for them to try to build some form of flow and continuity. The It's crazy to see these bench units come on the floor, where a second unit is by far the best starting lineup in the NBA. It's definitely a different style of basketball. And as you can see, the U.S., it's not going to be an easy win. There's no such thing anymore, and this is a beautiful thing. We should be celebrating this. I know, um, the us Patriots over here, it's hard for us to admit any form of defeat, but we're not far from the U.S. putting their best squad out there and not being the favorites. That is going to happen someday, and there's no such thing as an easy win right now. Regardless of the talent that we have out there. The
I
these
saw
these
I saw a
Go ahead.
meme. It was the dream team, that I'm going to get the numbers wrong, but the disparity is the same. That the dream team only faced, I think, 9 NBA players, where this team is going to face like 90. That can't be right. 90. It was like 59, or it was like 80. It was like there's this difference that there was only 9 other NBA players in 1992 when the dream team like beat up everybody. And now it's like these teams are loaded. When I'm going through these lists of the different countries, there's really only 2 that I didn't know anybody that was on the team. So that's just, these guys have, the NBA is international. Sorry to jump in and steal your thought process. I apologize. I couldn't believe when I saw that. I was like, that's nuts. And it makes you think like basketball has changed so much in I was going to say 20 years, but that's the I can't do the math right now.
Which is a few years ago,
30
right?
something.
I think,
Yeah.
yeah, it was just a couple years ago that we were watching Jurassic Park, and the
Mm-hmm.
Dream Team was displaying their medals. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, yeah, no, this we're gonna face many challenges, and we're gonna see the U.S. lose to the numbers game sometimes just by teams getting up more three pointers. These international teams, they have continuity on their side. They can play a little faster than us as a result. I feel like just about every other nation has something that we don't, and that's a soccer mentality. When you see the way that the ball moves, it makes you think of other sports. because it's definitely a different style of game than what we're used to seeing in the NBA.
Yeah,
But
that's after watching. I watched South Sudan and Germany. Both, it's just you're able to get open space and put up a shot. And to me, if the Germans were like I sent you, it was like this precision, like the way that they ran their sets. And granted, they've been with that group for 10, 15 years. Like Schroeder's been running plays with the German team since he was 20. And like that team is together. It's not like this team that
he's
just got cobbled.
unrecognizable. He is unrecognizable in international play. Like, who is this guy? Hey,
Yeah.
this is the guy who signed minimum contracts a few years ago. He
Or
looks
turned
like, I
down a
mean,
max deal.
yeah, well, not to mention,
No,
yeah, he's
they made a point. He's the leader of that team because he was the only German NBA player for a long time. And now you've got Thies and the Wagner
the
brothers and
Wagner's.
Wagner's. Sorry, excuse me. I am German. I should
Mhm.
be speaking it correctly. So yeah, these guys that have come up, and it was funny because they were talking about. I want to say his name is Voigtman, but I'm sure it's something else. The way they were like, he's kind of like Jokic on the floor, and I think I was like, I'm sure everybody watching was like, whatever. But then you're watching him play, and it's like it's a big guy that can find like the open space and pass, and it's like the game is different the way that it's opened up because yeah, Jokic, that's like you said, these teams they play the spacing that you see in soccer and kind of have implemented it over in the basketball. Whereas America and NBA players and AAU, it's I'm going to dribble, I'm going to do this, and it's one-on-one play, which, and
Yeah,
granted, it's
a lot
not
of pick
their,
and roll action, a lot of
yeah,
pick
and
and
that's
roll
not
action,
their fault
lot of penetration, and
when you're not a team like LeBron and Steph, like they've never played together, like uh, Edwards has never done a curl route to get a pass from Drew Holiday before. Like these guys just don't know their timing. They don't know exactly the way that these guys are going to play together. So it's going to take some time. Granted, you can see when they want to take over, they take over. And that's been, you've seen the switch turn. And it's nice, like you said, that second unit comes out and it's like, okay, you've got Edwards, Tatum, uh, sometimes it's Derek White, and then you got
Bam and
Bam
AD.
and AD or your low post. So it's like this team is nuts the way that they've got it set up. But it's cool seeing Edwards and LeBron both be the engines. It's like when they usually are that Edwards is kind of taken on this. It's essentially when Steph and LeBron are on the court, it's Anthony's team and he's trying to run the show. Granted, he tries to do a little too much sometimes, but it's cool seeing the dynamics of this team kind of play out. And yeah, that, like you said, that second unit to be able to go up against any other nation's bench is what's probably going to be the tipping point because I think, granted, our starting five is beyond belief, but I think there's going to be some competition from other countries because we're going to get their best, and that's just what's going to happen.
So, thus far, granted, it's only been exhibition games, but they have been uncomfortably close. It seems like we really had to pull ourselves out of some holes in fourth quarters, and teams have been able to make runs against us. Do you think that there is a next gear for the U.S., or do you feel like we're going to see some similar struggles as we get into the tournament games?
I think there's probably two more gears. Their defensive intensity only gets like turned on like the third and the fourth. If they can turn it on in the first half and just like shut these teams down, and granted, it's you're not going to be able to do that to a Jokic or granted, I would say the rest of our group looked weak when I first saw it. I was like, oh, South Sudan and Puerto Rico, like we should crush them. But it's like after watching South Sudan, like they're gritty. Like you're gonna find, like I said, it's finding the space to just get up a shot. And granted, like you said, guys are gonna get hot, and that's just something that's gonna happen. And unfortunately, with this tournament, it's not like the NBA playoffs where you're gonna play a series. It's a one and done like football. So you're going to have to make sure that everything is on point going into this because there is no like, oh, okay, there is no game two to like get ready for to like, all right, we're going to bring it. It's like, no, you got to do it now. So I think that's going to be the thing where I think they're going to realize, hopefully they'll get it in this first game and be like, we got to turn it on right away. We got to lock in and be defensive, which might be tricky for some guys because it's like Steph, Tatum, like Embiid aren't they're good in their positions, but they're not like lockdown defenders. And you watch that against Germany when Steph's trying to chase the German Steph and Opes, and he was just doing the exact same thing, except he's got maybe 3 inches on him. And so they're like, and Steph's trying to guard him. I'm like, oh no, like that's not what we want. Like, you don't want somebody who shoots the ball like Steph being guarded by Steph. It's like, no, I want Edwards on him. I want somebody who's going to like body him and kind of get out there. So I think finding the rotation, finding the right rhythm as far as defensively, I think you got to find that first because they're going to find shots. Like LeBron can penetrate, AD will penetrate, Steph will shoot. It all starts on the defensive end. And granted, that's as we probably go through this podcast series, it's something I will always harp on because it's the only thing that I was good at. It's the only reason I played varsity was because I was able to stop the best player. So to me, like that's the key to everything is being able to play defense is what's, and you watch that, like that's how they got on open break. Edwards getting steals, like it's creating turnovers to get fast break points that's the US, like that's their key. It's they would love to just run, like if they wish they would do old Kentucky full court press and just do line changes every 3 minutes and just exhaust the rest of the world and just shoot threes when they needed to. But that's not going to happen.
Well, you were seeing some of that in exhibition games, so we might see a little bit more of it. It is funny to watch some of these second string guys go up against the best of the best defenders in the world. It's almost like it's almost like watching you or me try to play against an NBA player.
Hey, but sometimes some of them like get the shot off. It's like,
Yeah,
like yeah,
yeah.
like you and I was rooting for South Sudan like through parts of it. It's like I want this game to be close. It was exciting. I want these guys to be tested. That's what you want these exhibition games to be. It's you don't want them all to be blowouts. You don't learn anything from blowouts. I think as a team and as a former player, like the only time you're really going to learn anything is when you're tested, when you're like, all right, let's see how this works when the pressure is on. And they've definitely have had that the last 2 games for sure. So that's been exciting and hope that it carries over. And thankfully they've played 2 of the 3 teams that are in their group. So, and yeah, and then let's see. Then we got to face the big boys, the Canadas, the French, the Germans, and see what happens then. Because and I will be curious, and we will get into predictions later, but of just kind of how this all plays out. But I will give you the groups unless you had anything else to throw onto this.
No. Fire away.
So we've got the 3 different groups of 4. So in the first group, they're calling it the group of death. It's Australia, Greece, Canada, and Spain. So we'll get into who's on whose team. In Group B, it's France, Germany, Japan, and Brazil. And then Group C is Serbia, South Sudan, Puerto Rico, and the United States. And so if you want to jump back to Group A, the group of death, we've got Australia, and they've got our old friend Matthew Dellavedova, Joe Inglis, the big white boy 3-point shooter, and then Dante Exum. And I only went off the names that I recognize. So it's like, this is bare bones. Like I've seen this name at some point on ESPN. I knew it. Greece, we've got the Giannis bros, and I really didn't know anybody else. I did just watch a reel yesterday that I found pretty compelling about Giannis Antetokounmpo and his brother's relationship. Is the fact that when I think it was the Bucks in the finals went down 0-2, I think Giannis had COVID and was away from the team, and Giannis like couldn't handle it, and like the team he was looking for him the whole time, like didn't know what to do. And they said he was back miraculously 3 days later for game 3. And Giannis was better. And then I think they won the next 4. And the funny thing was that he had to ride in a separate car in the parade because he had COVID. So the fact that those brothers are so tight knit and he needs to see him in order to function properly. To me, it's really, I haven't actually been able to watch them play on this Greek team ever before. So I think I'm excited to see them play. I did find it compelling that I missed. I think they played. Is it Croatia who Luka plays for? So they beat Luka Doncic's
Hmm.
team in
Yeah,
order
they
to
knocked out.
advance into the Olympics. So
Yeah,
that's
they knocked.
Greece. And then my personal favorite team is Canada. Like outside of the United States, I think Canada is the one that's going to give them the most trouble. Uh, so they got a bunch of acronyms I wrote down. They got NA, they got SGA, Dylan Brooks, Trey Lyles, Jamal Murray, Kelly Olynyk, and Dwight Powell. So this team is pretty stacked. They got a decent bench. To me, I think Canada is really one of those. And granted, the U.S. has already beaten them. I think that was their second game, or did they? I might be
I'd have to
wrong
look
on it.
back. I'd have to look back
Yeah,
up.
I think it was the very first game of the exhibition. So I don't know if it's a real takeaway or anything like that. And then Spain. Spain was one of those. I knew the name, like the Hernangomez brothers are really the only name that I recognized that was on their team. But granted, I didn't
So,
have any
so,
names.
so what I've learned is the way that these groups are ranked. The reason Spain gets in that group is because of their previous success. A lot of the previous
Hmm,
success carries over in the rankings, and so as I Spain's probably one of the weaker teams in that group. As you mentioned, they don't have the Gasols playing for them anymore.
yep.
They've yeah, they're not quite the squad that they used to be. I mean, they're still a good team and they're going to be competitive. They always seem to play well together and will surprise you. I wouldn't be surprised if they pull out some upsets here, but yeah, they're probably at the bottom of the list in that group.
I have them finishing third in the group. I have Canada, Greece, Spain, Australia in that order. And that'll come into play later on because it's the way that they ranked everything out. Group B has got France, which I think obviously with there being no defensive 3 seconds in international basketball competition, it gives the French the biggest advantage in that regard to be able to just clog the lane. Like they're forcing you to shoot threes. You're not gonna come into the paint with Wembanyama and Gobert. Like there's no chance that you're gonna come in there and do a finger roll when you have 2 7+ footers in there, like just swiping their arms back and forth. So I think that forces teams in order, like a Germany, where you have to have these precision plays in order to get the spacing, in order to pull away and to kind of dissect that type of defense, where you're gonna find the wings, you're gonna find the high post, and kind of force those two to be split up in order to create openings down low. So, and Germany is the other team that's in there. I have them going. I have France 1, Germany 2, Japan 3. With the only name I have is Rui Hachimura from the. Is he still with the Lakers, or did he move on? I knew he was with them the last time I recognized the name.
That is a great question. Let me verify for that real quick while you
Yeah,
finish your point
and
because
then
yeah.
Germany has the people we mentioned before: Dennis Schroeder, the Wagner Bros, and Obst, who is the German staff. Brazil, I knew nobody from Brazil, so we'll see how they do. I'm curious to see if they surprise some people because that's the exciting part about these tournaments, whether it's the World Cup or whoever. There's always going to be surprises. And then Group C, USA, we've gone through. Serbia has got Jokic. I don't think there was anybody else I recognize. Oh, Bogdan Bogdanovic and Nikola Jovic is also
Yeah.
on that team. uh, South Sudan, I should have wrote down a lot of their names because they had some good players. I think they had a few NBA. I think there's probably at least 3 NBA players. Uh,
They currently have no active NBA players on that
really,
roster. Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
they're
They have.
former. They had NBA experience, is what at
Yeah,
least
yeah,
what kind
yeah.
of what
They've
it
had
seemed.
exactly. They've had guys with NBA contracts, but no active NBA players right
Yeah.
now.
And that team was essentially created, like they've only been a country for 13 years, but that country has been led by Luol Deng, the former Bull. He used to coach the team. has now kind of taken almost like a GM role or kind of assistant to the team. But that's kind of his leadership is what's driving it, and why you're seeing them in the Olympics is because of his leadership and the reason that he's able to kind of bring them up. And then
Yeah,
Puerto Rico.
I look forward to that. I look forward to that film. That's gonna be a great Disney movie someday. The
Oh yeah. Yeah.
the Rise of El Sudan. I very much look forward to that movie.
Well, just that game itself is going to be like it could be the 1 point game when LeBron had to get a layup at the end to beat them because they put up such a tough fight. And so yeah, just you hope it carries over to the Olympics, and that wasn't their peak. Was a game that didn't matter. I hope. And granted, hopefully they'll have a solid game. I could see them beating Puerto Rico. Granted, I haven't seen them, so that is very well just me being ignorant as to what Puerto Rico is able to do. And I can't think of his nickname. Jose Alvarado is the guy that the small
Grand
little
Theft
guard who
Auto.
loves hiding behind and stealing the ball. So yeah, we'll probably see at least one of those highlights here in the Olympics. So they're a
Yeah.
gritty team too. I think that's gonna. Obviously, you would think the U.S. is going to stomp all over these teams, but as we've mentioned before, I don't see that happening just because, like you said, the talent level has not leveled out, but has definitely been distributed to a lot more countries versus just here, just by their interest in basketball and the way it's grown.
Yeah, I'm definitely on board with you with your rankings Group A, with Australia being the leader there. Again, wouldn't be surprised if we see like a Cinderella story, March Madness style run from one of these other teams. There's definitely the potential there. You know, when these guys are playing faster and with the grittiness, and you know, for them, I mean, it's like when on a Tuesday night in February when you know the I don't know, fill in the blank lottery team was playing like the 73 win Warriors. They're just gonna give everything that they have. That is a big game for them. They're gonna play it. They're gonna approach it like it's a championship game every single time. So there's not gonna be an easy win. You know, in Group B, I would actually give the edge to Germany here over France. Certainly afraid of the Twin Towers, but you know, the backcourt is just a little scarce for them. So I can't really see Wemby taking on too much of those point guard duties uh, throughout the course of the Olympics here. So I would still give the Germans the favorite. They're a great team. Um, but yeah, I just excited for basketball. You know, when we have an off season like this, and we have a reason to still watch high level basketball, it makes the dog days of summer just a little bit easier.
That's true. It works usually for me in World Cup summers as well. So, well, let's see. Did we have any other pieces? Oh, one of the things that we didn't mention. What was your take on? So Kawhi was originally added to the team. He thought he could load manage himself through the Olympics, but Steve Kerr said, "No, I'm going to play everybody 100%, and if you can't do that, you need to leave." And that's at least my takeaway from what happened. And he thought, "Oh, I thought I could just get a free trip to Paris and play when I want to," and they said no. So they replaced him with Derek White. What the controversy was why wasn't his Celtics teammate and NBA Finals MVP Jaylen Brown? And he's assumedly a bigger star, a bigger international pull. The only issue is that he's had some issues with Nike, and Nike is the team that is sponsoring the Olympics. Do you feel like it was a Derek White's a better defensive fit for this team because they lost Kawhi and needed somebody that could fill in that defensive role, and maybe Jaylen Brown wasn't that person? Maybe it was we already have too many Celtics wings, and so we don't want to keep piling on. Granted, we took another different Celtic wing. So, what was your whole take on how all of that kind of went down? And do you feel that they have the best American player to fill that role?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly hope it's the former, and that there's not any sort of big money playing a role in this. Uh, the I'm not too caught up on the Nike controversies, I, I j at the end of the day, there was no wrong answer here. between, whether or not you're going to pick Derek White or Jalen Brown. I think fit wise, Derek White is the better option. One of the harder parts of these stacked U.S. teams when we go all in and come up with this like dream team caliber roster is the hierarchy of players. Because as much as these guys will humble themselves and are clearly willing to take lesser roles and not worry about their stats as much, there still has to be that feeling of this is where our offense is going to be go through on a night to night basis with the first and second units. And LeBron seems to be the guy everybody's funneling their energy towards, which is insane, considering that he's about to turn 40. But just by filling in that gap with a guy with sort of like power in brand, power and name recognition, is not necessarily the better move. I think of Derek White as both a more versatile defender at the same position as Jalen Brown and a better shooter. So when you already have, a collection of MVPs sitting on a roster, I think they made a good move. You plug in the high energy guy, you plug in the guy who's not looking to fill up a stat sheet even in an NBA game, and his decision making, his secondary point guard skills. I think they're going to benefit the roster as a whole more than Jalen Brown. Again, had they chosen Jalen Brown to fill that role, they wouldn't have been wrong. I don't think there was a wrong answer there, but I think they were going more for fit, and I don't think it was a tough decision for that coaching staff.
Yeah, to me, it's I I see it as you're trying to create a team, and this guy was a great glue role player on the Celtics team, and I think that's kind of what they were looking for. When you're on the outside as somebody who's not a basketball fan or just kind of a fair weather fan, and because to me, there's not a comparable Derek White on the original Dream Team. There's not a bench player, not a bench player, but like more of a role player on that team. It was stars. And I think
Hey, Chris Mullin was on that team. Don't forget about Chris Mullin.
Hey, Chris Mullin was one of the lethalest 3-point shooters in the day. Do not beseech the name of Chris Mullin. And it's only because I share a birthday with him, but he was not a role player. He was the star on that Warriors team. I had a Warriors starter jacket. Do not give me Chris Mullin. I will come right back. I will defend Chris Mullin.
Fair enough.
But
Fair enough.
to me, like I knew Chris Mullin's name. To me, if I would be like, and granted, I didn't watch a lot of Celtics basketball, and I don't have East Coast. I'm not hearing East Coast sports coverage about different players on the Celtics team. It's just, to me, I think when somebody sees it, and the reason why there was so much backlash is because he's not a star. He's not a superstar that you're thinking of when you're thinking of we're building out this team of stars. When it's highlighted with LeBron and Steph and Embiid and Edwards, it's like, okay, these are superstars. These are the names. And I think that's kind of where people were surprised. It's like, you're not going to take the other superstar that's on your team. You're taking this guy. And I think that's, to me, it's surprising as a basketball person. I think, yes, it fits exactly like you said. This is a role that fits with what this team needs. And he's played very well on that second unit. Is kind of replaced. I feel like he's definitely has taken a space, but I know he will probably take a step back when Durant plays because Durant hasn't played at all in those 5 warm-up games. So I think his role in how he is kind of brought into this team is going to be curious to see too, because is he starting? Is he on the second team? Like, where does Kevin Durant fit in? Probably one of the greatest sharpshooters.
That'll be really interesting to see. Yeah, that'll be really interesting. And one of the most accomplished, if not the most accomplished Olympic basketball player. Which is why I think Durant's still on this roster, just because he has the staying power.
He's the scoring leader with, I think it's 435 points is the most in Olympics for the USA team. So we've covered a lot. Take a breath. I would also do another spot. If this is another spot where you want to put in your own advertisement, we can do a short read right here.
Oh yeah, yeah. Please, please. We would love to endorse your business. Help us get season tickets. Ronnie and I, we want to go to basketball games. Every year the NBA keeps getting more popular and season ticket prices keep going up. In spite of our efforts, we've we tried getting, odd jobs over the summer, paper boys, mowing lawns, lifeguarding. We still just cannot rack up enough money to get those season ticket packages. So please, please, please help us out and let us live out our NBA dreams.
Yeah, I'd say that's not the only reason. We'll start with I'll do maybe if I get really good and I can figure out a way, we'll do a live courtside podcast from like the Windy City Bulls game or something. Because I went courtside this past season. That was a great experience. Actually, I think one of the players that was on South Sudan's team actually played for the Windy City Bulls. So to me, I think the G League is definitely something I'm going to try to, since it's all of 5 minutes away from my house. I definitely want to try to gain access, and we'll probably see if we can get some interviews and talk to some people. I definitely saw some of the player agents, so we will do some moves and shaking and baking and try to get you guys access to up and coming NBA players. We will see what we can do, try to get access. And if you guys have any ideas or things that you think we should do, please reach out and let us know.
Yeah, yeah.
With that,
Comment, argue with us. Tell us everything you think, good or bad. We want to hear it all.
Indeed. So with that, with something that I think people can yell at us and barrage us about, and I see you have been talking to me, and I apologize for not seeing anything. Oh, predictions, Olympic predictions. Who do you have winning the medals? And then we will let you go take care of your kid.
Assuming I'd have to look at how the bracket could work out. But assuming that there's no issues with this, I'm gonna go obviously USA number one. I think I still take them over the field. I am going to pick. Ooh, I think I'm gonna go Germany too. I really do.
Ooh.
I just like the way that team flows. I think they make other squads look like they haven't been there before, and then I'll pick Australia three, just because yeah, they are a real NBA roster if you were to form that team today.
I got USA 1 beating Canada in the gold medal game. And then in the bronze medal game, I have Greece beating Germany.
Woo! Did I say Australia? I think I meant to say Canada. I'm sorry. I
You
meant
did
to
say
say
Australia. I was like,
Australia's a great squad.
Dellavedova is going to have
Australia's a great squad. I wouldn't be surprised if they medal as well. But sorry. My picks were U.S., Germany, Canada. That's what I meant
I was
to
going to
say.
say, I got to look at that Australia roster again. There,
Yeah.
I did not realize they were as loaded as you thought they were.
They're still pretty loaded.
No, it's a good team. With that, we hope you guys enjoy this. Enjoy the games. We will probably come to you after the group stages and kind of wraps our thoughts going into the knockout rounds. And then we will continue this on through the NBA season, hopefully. Again, let us know your thoughts. We would love to hear from you. Thank you for watching. If you made it this far, we really appreciate it. We will talk to you guys next time. This has been
awesome.
Basketball Bros. We will see you later.
Ciao.
Hit him with the crossover.